we're all set.
Okay, so I've got 7:17. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We had some technical difficulties getting Zoom up and running, but we're good now. Thanks everyone for their patience. First up on the agenda, we're going to be going through our current CPC project applications. And we're doing warrant articles where appropriate. First, the Southborough Golf Club. We have requested of Tony Schoner some information regarding the revolving funds. Freddie contacted Carla to get the detailed financial information, and got that today. You know, it's funny, we're throwing around talking about in funding the project, reducing the amount funded by some amount that's already in the revolving fund this year. We're sort of estimating, say, $50,000. It turns out that's about what is available. Yeah, please.
So, may I?
Yes.
Sorry. If you run through the thing, and I didn't realize it was such a big print, I apologize. If you run through the document I sent, does everyone have that? You printed it out. So there's 79,000 on here. They took in about 60,000 for the year so far.
Mhm.
So of the 79, that means it was 18 left from the year before. I didn't go through all the documents, but I'm just doing math, right?
Right.
They think there's about, he has no idea what they have in commitments, but he thinks maybe 30K.
Okay.
So all of this, again, is estimates till we get the numbers, and the golf course committee doesn't know. So I suggested they go to Mark Purple and the golf course management company to find out what their obligations are.
Yes.
And so they don't really know. And also I suggested they find out what they typically spend the money on to leave a prudent reserve.
Mhm.
But then Carla came back and said, and I listed what had been received this year to date.
Yes.
Deborah had sent that to Tony. There's only 5 months there. And Carla said, if you notice, last year there were 10 months, and the fiscal year doesn't stop until June 30th.
Yeah.
So that 79,000, as if there's 10 months, I don't know how it's spread. You'd have to do the analysis of what they sent. But just if you doubled it, there's another potential 60K,
Okay.
which is going to bring them up over the 100,000.
Right.
Can they spend that? But they have obligations, so it'll probably be less than the 100. But
We don't know how that sweep works, whether it happens at the end of the fiscal year or the instant they hit 100 during the year, because it automatically, does Carla automatically sweep it? You know what I mean? That would be important to know.
I'll add that to the list. So the issue is, we don't know that there's, for the fiscal year, what they really have that and they don't know, like, what if it, just pretend rained all spring, and they had no golf.
Sure.
So that's why Ben wanted 3 years. It would give you an average we could look at, and I didn't look, I got those today. I was doing something else at the time, so I don't know, but I think there's a lot of ifs.
Yes.
But I went with the 50K.
Yep.
And then we're also, one of the questions is, if in fiscal year 24, which we're in, which their revolving fund is going to increase during, even though we go to town meeting in March, I don't believe warrant articles get certified until July 1st. I don't know if we can start paying funding on a project that hasn't been approved at town meeting. So is there some way the golf course committee can allocate that money towards a project that hasn't started yet? Or could they allocate it to the CPC? I mean, how do they set it aside?
Yeah.
Is anyone following me? If you understand fiscal years?
The Attorney General doesn't actually certify warrant articles until after town meeting as well, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's my
So
point.
I understand,
Was that-
I understand your point, Freddie. I think it's probably easier for them than it is for us. You know, the timing of our expenditures are completely bound up by town meeting, but the nature of a revolving fund is funds come in, funds get spent, and they just have to keep it under the cap.
And you spend money on a project that hasn't started.
And Dave's
Town
you're
government.
asking if they'll be okay.
They have a revolving fund. It's a town government. You know, procurement and spending, like I can't pay for something until I get it.
Oh, I see what you're
What I'm on
saying,
a key.
procurement law,
There's all kinds of
yeah.
questions we
You
need to
don't think
find
they're
out.
gonna start the project before July?
They're not starting it until the fall. They need to update their application. They're not gonna, the funding's not gonna be available to July 1st. They're not gonna dig up the course in the middle of the summer, so they're planning to, that's gonna, so I talked to Tony several times in emails. They're gonna make an addendum to their application, you know, added facts. And that's one of the things they have to update the timing of it. Because he said the fall, right? Was the last I heard. So
What's our concern though, if they don't, why don't they just start paying for it when it starts with the money they have and the money they get from us?
So revolving fund, if it hits over 100,000, it gets swept. We want
Right.
that money.
So we might miss that first swipe.
Yeah.
Everything hasn't started.
And it, given the receipts from the first half of the year, as Freddie said, the second fiscal year is as lucrative for the golf course. It's actually not an insubstantial amount of money, you know, it's $20,000 potentially that could go towards the project.
Right.
Did they do a promissory note?
I'm sorry, Lisa, and guys, hey, it's Kristen. I'm sick, so I'm home. But I think it was Lisa that just said something about $100,000 being swept. Can you just clarify, or I misheard?
That was Freddie.
We were told that the revolving fund has 100,000. We don't have any documentation on this, but we were told there's a suspicion that there's $100,000 cap. And when the revolving fund gets to 100K, anything over that gets swept into the general fund.
Okay, how do we clarify that? Because that sounds ridiculous.
Do any of the
I mean,
Uh,
I'm happy. I guess that's my question. Should we take that question up and clarify it? And I'm happy to help do that if so.
Yeah, it's one of many questions. If you also see the sheet I said. I had clarified that the CPA accounts can have money added in from other sources. It's in the legislation, but I double checked with Stuart. It is, people can make donations even. So there's no restriction on getting money added into CPA.
Thank you.
However, I did not check, and Carla said she has to check with DOR if a revolving fund can be obligated to, you know, this interest-free loan we're talking, that's how we're calling it.
Yeah.
If they can actually do that. And Department of Revenue has, you know, laws
Yeah.
that could be, don't make sense to us when we think about it, but there's
Sure.
reasons for them. So she's checking on that. We need to find out about if there's even 100K cap and when that gets swiped.
Okay.
And if they can put money from fiscal year 24 towards the project, where would it go?
And as you say, it could go to the CPA fund. It can be held there.
If they can,
If they are able to, we are able to accommodate that.
we are, but I didn't think about are they?
Right, okay.
But on that case, they could probably, if they can't do the promissory, that's the point, I think, that it's like paying a bond. Because it's not a bond, we're just asking that they repay what they have. No set amount, no interest. A percentage, they could at least pay what's in the revolving fund now.
Yeah.
If they can't pay ongoing.
Mhm.
So just,
Okay.
until you start digging into this, you don't know all the questions that are gonna come up.
And this is something new.
And nobody's done this
Nobody's
before
done
that I
this
know.
before.
Yeah.
That's some, not great.
Yeah, I totally respect that.
So you've had,
Yes.
you requested three fiscal years, but this is all we have right now, is that my?
No,
understanding
the
correctly?
spreadsheet.
Okay.
Just, I sent the
the.
spreadsheet, we didn't print it out, and we're not going through it tonight, because I
Okay.
just sent it out, and there's, we don't expect committee members to do a deep dive into 3 years of,
I was gonna say, I came out at 5:20, so I just didn't have a chance to.
Yeah.
to see
yeah,
it.
and I sent an email saying you're not expected to look at it.
Okay.
Because, do the best we can when we get stuff, and
Yeah.
there are other emails going on back and forth.
Sure.
So the point is, this is just a purely hypothetical update on the finances, but you have to have something, and
Yeah.
until you start asking the questions, you don't know what other questions arise, right?
No, this is very helpful to see, certainly their receipts so far this year. It's very helpful. They've
Yeah,
done well.
sorry, it's such a big
Oh,
typo.
that's okay.
I copied and pasted. So at the very top is a recap of what I came up with. So they asked for 525. We put in a 15% contingency on the whole amount. And then you subtract the 50,000, which comes up to a project that CPA would fund request would be for 553,750.
Okay.
That's a $50,000 contribution. The reason I wrote project total with contingency is 603,750, because you need to know what the contingency is
Right. 78, 750.
on the whole amount, and
Yep.
then they're paying towards it, and then after that. So if that makes sense, I think that's
Okay.
I think that's it.
Okay, do we have an idea when we're gonna get the final pieces of information from Tony and Mark Purple?
So Tony's out of town. He's going to do some updates. I can reach out to him again. It's a little bit convoluted, I would say, because it seems that maybe the golf course committee hasn't done this sort of financial inquiry.
Right.
And they may not have been provided with financial updates. So I'm in a place where I know or I've been talking, the questions to ask, but it's really not up to me to do his application research unless this committee asks me to help him do that.
Right.
It would be improper to do it without his
No, of course.
volume.
So he's gotten the questions from you.
Not all of them, but I can rephrase. We have
Okay,
new ones tonight.
okay. The only reason I asked that question is, of course, is we are getting really close to the deadline for the submission of articles. We're still, we can cobble something together to get it submitted before the deadline, but it's gonna take some work after the fact to get all the numbers plugged in.
This will be, my recommendation would be first thing Monday, I make a list of questions.
Yeah.
At the very end, Carla, I hadn't thought of bringing Mark Purple in until I actually told Tony that maybe he should go to him, and then
Yeah.
Carla included him in. So I think on Monday, if you think this would be good, I can make a list of all our questions tonight. Send it to Tony, CC Mark Purple, Carla,
I think that would be great.
Ben and Chris. We always have chair and vice chair on the emails.
And I think
Send out.
maybe even more than just CCing Mark, maybe just a quick email directly to him, asking him to help shepherd this through.
Yes.
I
Why
understand
don't you
this is,
send that email to CC me? Everyone.
Good
That
idea.
comes from,
Yeah.
usually comes from there.
yeah. Yeah, just because, as you say, some of the financial stuff is a little bit new to the golf course committee, and this is something Mark will be more familiar with, and
And this
can probably drive along.
idea of what we're calling an interest-free loan.
Yep.
Is, we've never done it in CPA, and I don't know that any town or, I've never heard of it before. It was a solution to a unique
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah,
Have we talked to the Community Preservation Coalition about this?
All of this came up since, and we've kind of used up our bandwidth with them.
But if it's one that you've never heard of, a type of funding mechanism that you've never heard of in any other town, that's never been done here, shouldn't we?
I asked if we could do it, we can. So from their position, we can. This is all DOR, not their bandwidth.
Yeah,
What the revolving fund, that's none of, they don't focus on revolving.
we
funds.
are getting a DOR review, and of course, we'll also get, review by town council.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's my goal, is to ask town council and Mark Purple everything,
Yeah.
but you and I can work on it, because the request to town council has to come from you as well.
Okay,
But in the meantime, I can put together a draft warrant article, if you so decide, with a placeholder
yes.
draft, that this is our goal if it can be done. And if it can't,
I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
okay.
and I can, I can make. Yeah, I can look some other stuff up.
Okay. Thank you.
Sounded like a great idea.
I think it is.
I think it's awesome. Yeah.
It's a fantastic idea. And I think frankly, without it, I don't think we'd have much of a chance at town meeting.
Yeah, I think, I
Yeah,
would suggest the committee can then decide if they want to move forward with funding it without a repayment plan. If that can't be, only if that can't be done, you can consider it,
Yeah,
but would town meeting approve it?
Big question.
we would have to bring the golf course committee into that and, obviously they've got a stake in this and ask them if they would want to try to present it to town meeting, because as we talked about with other projects, when you try and fail, you just create headwinds for yourself in the future, would they want to wait a year? Would they want to wait a couple of, I don't know, but they deserve to be a part of that conversation if it comes to it, I would say.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Move forward as if
Yep.
this can happen.
Yep.
Yes,
Do we normally use placeholders? Is that the normal mechanism by which we?
It's
Yes.
very common.
Yep.
Yeah,
the way, if I may,
please.
the way our articles run, we're getting stuff finalized the day before they go to print.
Yeah.
The time when they move the town meeting up, doesn't give enough time. So we have a placeholder and we do goes to town council, then it comes back, and then the committee votes on a final warrant article when they know that everything's been checked off. So, yeah. This year's particularly.
This is a tough one, yeah, for a bunch of reasons. Okay, so that's the golf club. We're moving along there. Next up, the Peninsula Trail.
Heard from Kat?
You have heard from her?
Yeah,
Okay. She was talking about submitting some supplemental information.
Yeah, she will. Her supplemental information is some support letters, and I think there was something she wanted to revise and discuss, that she might also have some potential pro bono help that's going to reduce the total cost for the engineering. However, she still needs to ask for the full amount, because she won't know about the pro bono till later, but she wanted to let you know. She had a skiing accident, so she can't be here tonight, and
Yes,
Brett, you saw
I
her
saw her
last
last
night.
night, yes.
She's-
she's hobbling. Yeah, I mean, she's got a pretty bad knee thing. She's on crutches. But
She hasn't had the imaging, so no idea if it's an ACL or less, but anyhow, so she expects to have something into us.
Okay.
But
So that
there was
doesn't,
nothing we had on her that we.
yeah, we're not waiting on, like,
Doesn't
we're not
change
waiting
the-
on this thing.
Yeah, we were done with this one.
Support letters, like.
Right.
We were done.
no, she wants to dot every I and cross every T. That's much appreciated. Okay, so we have everything we need to get a warrant article drafted on that.
Yes, and we have it also, so the committee understands, there's in the warrant article, it mentions the MOU.
Yes,
And in the past, the committee had waited till after, for some reason, after it got passed a town meeting, and we have since, you have since discussed and determined to need to have it agreed upon prior to town meeting, and then the MOU says it passed at town meeting, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So that everything's agreed on before it goes to town meeting, and like, they said, well, I didn't know this, right? So you have that to be done before town meeting, but you don't have to have it before the warrant article.
In the MOU, just for, many new members here, it just captures everything that was talked about during the presentations and from the application, because the warrant article is necessarily a short little blurb. So this just captures, information that the applicant has already provided to us, and important discussions that we had at our meeting.
So for the golf course project, an example would be the Audubon International condition, right? Or we usually put in that all permits will be
Any required permits.
we have standard language, any required permits are before before funding's released.
And for trails, it'll be, any work offset by donation or, pro bono efforts will, offset the draw of funds, and those funds will remain will be returned to the CPA.
Yeah, and the other thing we need to look at this year that we hadn't done as well in other years that other towns do, and it's highly recommended, is a sunset clause.
Yeah.
And I have examples of that we can start putting in.
Like if they don't spend the money within a certain amount of time, it comes back or something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, could we clarify what the sunset clause is?
It's a best practice recommendation that if a project doesn't start within so many years, or if each one's individual for the project, discussed with the project applicant, but like project needs to start by I think we even had one in for the Algonquin, by just pretend it was September 1st, 2025. The project's already done, but gives them some leeway if something doesn't happen, but it doesn't tie up the money forever if they don't start it.
Got it. Thank you.
And just want to throw out there, I think we should add that to our discussion this spring when we start getting into sort of codifying our application process. That's something that maybe we should address within the application, that there's a standard sunset provision in our grants of X number of years, and give the applicants a place to, if there's a reason why this doesn't work for you, what period would and why. I think that's something that we could.
So Ben, I totally agree with you, but isn't there already something in the language about how many years a project has to get completed in?
No, no. So but that's why you put a sunset clause in, and why it's a best practice, and there
Oh,
are
absolutely. Yeah. Sorry. I was, I thought there was that in place, so I absolutely support it.
So, in addition, I mean, in the MOUs that we're going to put together, we will talk about that. I'd like to also add that to our discussion this spring when we start talking about our application process, and just sort of putting together a written document about how CPC works for the benefit of the applicants, also for our own benefit. Anyhow, off topic, my apologies.
No, but important topic, so that's good. Thank you.
Okay, so we have what we need at this point for a warrant article for the Peninsula Trail, the trails.
draft.
For a draft warrant article. Fantastic. Next up, town clerk, preservation, restoration, digitization of permanent town records. You'll recall after our last meeting, I said that I would get in touch with Jim and try to meet with him. The next day I did meet with him, with he and Jeremy. And it was a fantastic and informative meeting. I got to see what Jeremy does. And it was not really the picture that I had in my mind. The level of restoration that he's capable of and that he does is really surprising. He's an artist. I wrote down some notes, some of the, now of course I won't be able to find them, but here we go here. So I'm not gonna spend too much time digging, but I'm sure Jim can fill in any pieces that I missed. many of the records have been attacked by book mites. It's a sort of a common problem. And first, there's a protocol to kill them that starts with freezing the documents for a period of something like 2 weeks, and then there's then this very detailed protocol for cleaning the documents. The results of the cleaning, just some of these documents from like 1790 or whatever. Jeremy had put together documents from the same batch of documents with similar discoloration and so forth. One cleaned and one not cleaned. And like I said, the difference is stunning. The mites will leave occasionally just actual craters gone from a document. And these areas of missing paper are infilled with a special type of tissue made from the roots of, I forget what plant it is. But it's a non-acidic, non-reactive tissue that's held together with a sounds like a wheat-based glue that has the benefit of the patch the infill ever needed to be removed, just a couple of drops of water and you can remove it. But it's unless you add that water, it protects the document by strengthening it, keeping everything tied together. There's some problems caused by a certain type of ink that was frequently used then. I can't remember the name of the problem, Jim, that causes, but it will, in some cases, actually eat holes through the paper. And another one of the issues that Jeremy addresses. So the question was, after going through the DOR guidance on what is allowable preservation work of municipal documents, the question was, does this work qualify? And I actually have written down the relevant clause from the DOR guidance. And to me, there's absolutely no question. Well, they discuss what's not allowed. And what they say is funding for cataloging, indexing, scanning, digitizing, transcribing, or otherwise preserving the information content of municipal documents rather than preserving or restoring the physical historic resource itself is not allowable. The historic document is the historic resource. The work being proposed that is being proposed to be done by Jeremy, I think pretty clearly is in line. It's not subject to any of these prohibitions. Similarly, the work proposed to be done by Northeast Document Conservation Center, similar in nature. They'll be given batches of documents to work on. Jim provided with his updated application, a list of the documents to be restored under this project. And we have the application. I don't know that I brought the list with me, but it's a list. Oh, thank you. That lists the document by document class and date range of the class. So just a couple of examples. Deeds to personal property, 1749 to 1898. Orders of taking land by eminent domain, 1914 to 1924. Similarly.
That get passed on to you guys?
So that one.
Okay, we need to circulate that. I'm going to pass this down so that you can take a look at it.
I have the email. Can I email everyone since we're in a meeting right now?
Oh, that's right, because of course, Jim provided that to historical to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just forward that along?
It has more detail.
Oh, this one has more detail.
Oh, this one.
Okay. So one question for the committee is if they feel that this is a detailed enough description to feel comfortable with the work to be performed. One question I was just going to ask of Jim is, for these collections, a rough number of pages that will be restored, in the collection. We have a handle on that. I know
this represents roughly 1,000 pages.
Okay. Now, my thinking is this gives us something as invoices come in. This gives us something to compare the invoices against. You know, when, you know, Jeremy, for instance, writes he spent, 6 hours restoring documents from the eminent domain takings collection in the year 1913. We can look at the list. There it is. This is one of the things that was funded. And it will allow us to track the work, while at the same time not completely burdening Jim. We can't ask for an itemized list of every single page, for instance. So there was some sort of happy medium to find there. So that's one question. A second question, Jim, this is a question that I had for you. Some of the work is being sent off to NEDCC, and some is being done by Jeremy in the townhouse. And I forgot to ask this when we met, but I'm sure that there's some rationale for why some are being sent out and some are not.
It's the condition of the ones going outside. It's, for example, the outer casings of books that they have to essentially reweave in some cases. It's a much more sophisticated, a higher level of detail. We don't have the equipment to be able to do it. It'd be thousands of dollars to have that equipment.
Okay.
So can I ask a question? So from this list that we've been provided, some of these items are being sent. This is strictly for
100%
Jeremy.
Strictly
Okay,
in-house.
okay, perfect.
And so the list of items going to NEDCC, within the latest your updated application, you put in their estimate, their written estimate that catalogs the documents that they are going to be restored. So we have that list already.
Can we get it as a list? So we asked for last time.
Oh, Jim, I'm hopeful that you have this on hand. Could the documents that NEDCC referenced within their estimate, do you have a single list of those documents?
I don't have a hard copy with me, but I've given it before, but I can give you show you the email of it.
Oh, that's perfect. That's exactly what we need. Thank you. Okay, questions, comments from the committee?
I just have one question about 6 hours per week for 2 years. Is that because Jeremy, is he doing other stuff for 34 and it's only the 6 that is covered by the CPC, or why, as opposed to just cranking it out over 4 months or whatever,
Well, he has a full-time job. He's a state archivist for the state of Massachusetts.
Oh, okay, so Southborough is just taking what time?
And he's working for the digitization aspects of the catalog and the other aspects of that. That's actually in my town budget. So he'll be working nights and weekends for a total of 19.5 hours a week.
Okay, and then CPC covers the 6 hours, which fits. Okay.
So the scanning and even the stuff that'll be scanned, that'll be repaired by this, independent of this. This will be scanned, and then using his other time, he'll use that to put that up on the website we have, 01772 History.
Sorry,
you
Mr. Haggerty, I'm sorry, and I think I missed this because I am remote and that obviously doesn't help. When you said he's gonna be working nights and weekends,
Yes.
what's he doing during his normal hours?
He's an archivist for the state of Massachusetts.
So his nights and weekends will be spent doing this extra work. Do we have to pay like overtime?
No, nope, he's a contractor, flat thing.
Actually, I need to jump in here. That's another change that Mr. Hegarty made. So there's there was some concern. The DOR has issued guidance that CPA funds can't be used to pay the salary of a town employee, especially when the salary will be used to pay for the typical, that employee's typical duties. That list of exclusions that I read earlier, many of those tasks, the DOR says, are the typical and customary tasks of a town clerk, being custodian of the town's records. That's part of the rationale. So Jeremy had been a part-time employee of the town. To clear this issue up entirely, I want to say he's being fired, but he's no longer going to be a part-time employee of the town. He's going to be a 1099 contract employee. His work is going to be directed by Mr. Hegarty. And we are not paying for any of the typical customary duties of a town clerk. With that being said, one thing that would be helpful to the committee and is customary on our projects, Jim, is that invoices are, for most projects, are approved monthly. If this wouldn't be burdensome on you or Jeremy,
Perfectly.
okay. Thank you.
Are there any restrictions on him being a state employee?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
So if there are
Yeah.
regulations about funds not going to a local employee, a town employee, are there any on going to a state employee?
We won't be a state employee under this contract.
Right.
Sure, but just as a,
But
Yeah.
he's still a state archivist, is he still employed in the state for his other like day job or whatever?
Yeah, so this is entirely different. Animal. He's an intake archivist. So basically, when they get all the things delivered to them, his job is to it should be saying this, it's sort of like somebody at the swap shop. What has value, what doesn't, you know, and start the process. This is one of the two emails, so if you want to scan through that, and I'll break the second one. It's like a 5-page email. If you get down a couple of pages, it shows the detail behind it. And it shows the level of care that they have to go through for all those items. It's quite detailed.
Oh, yeah.
Can I ask a question too, Ben?
Sure.
Yes, please.
So, and Jim, I'll ask you this, I guess, too.
Yep.
So on the two, NEDCC invoices.
Right.
There was the addendums. Are we taking the addendums off still? Is that still the plan? We had talked about that at the last meeting because it had to do with digitization.
No, that's less than 10% of the cost of it, the digitization. Well, you have the documents right here.
Right, no, I have them, but what my question is according to the
Oh,
guidelines we were given, digitization is not covered CPC expense. So when we, at the last meeting, we talked about pulling the 1250 and the 750 out.
That's not accurate. The documentation talks about it, it's ancillary to the action. There's a zillion references to that.
Which document are?
Yeah, if you.
It's in all your paperwork that you give me. It's clear as a bell.
Which document?
You have the
It
one
was
that
the
gave me data.
IGR.
No, I'm
Okay.
saying I don't have it memorized
not-
right now,
It's
so.
clear as a bell. That it can't be scanning, but if it's done contemporaneous with the activity and not a separate event, they don't use the term de minimis, but that's the intent of it.
Okay,
It's a lot.
was it, do you know, was this from the IGR document?
Yes.
From
I
the-
believe it
the
was. I
DOR?
don't
Yeah,
have-
okay, thank you.
So can we-
Yeah, it's a lengthy document. It's some 70 pages long.
Absolutely.
I have to go
Can
through it
you,
again.
to make this move forward, which I'm not doubting you, but then you can look through it and determine if it says that the committee could now say,
Yes.
and this would be a future discussion if they have a question on that at the next meeting. So
I just want to make sure we're crossing our T's. and
Right,
dotting
no.
our
So what I'm
I's.
saying is-
So,
unless someone can find it right now, I would recommend that you could move whatever you move forward with and then decide you have to pull it out or not.
Yeah.
And if you decide you feel you have to pull it out, you can still have another conversation with Jim, because it wouldn't be, you need to meet to make that
There's a-
decision.
Hang on a second. I don't lose my
Yeah, I
temper.
mean, I have the
There's a
document.
time when you just
You
have to
have
stick
the
a
IGR
flag in the ground.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what I'm looking for. Do you
So,
know what
I'm
is,
trying to find
I have
it.
the document, so I can do a search. Is this the historic resources section or?
There's 1,000 pieces in it.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. It was called out, it was very easy to find in the last, for our last meeting. So I'm just trying to see if I can go to what Freddie had sent us.
I'll go to the historic section.
Tomorrow morning, I'll go through the documents that you guys sent us, and I'll send you back exactly what this talks about. And I can also dig out other items. I'll send you exactly what's in the documents.
Thank you, Jim. I know I had said those
Thank
words.
you,
to you.
Jim.
No,
Many-
it's not,
okay.
not for what you said.
Okay,
It's their language.
And I
excellent.
just want to make sure we had talked about it at the last meeting, and it seems fairly clear that we're again, just making sure that we're following the guidelines that we need to be, that's all. I'm not doubting anybody or questioning anybody, I just, for my own peace of mind.
Just
wanna
to
make sure.
follow up, you want me to send you again copies of these emails of these two NEDCC proposals?
We have the two proposals.
Okay.
We have the two
We do.
proposals. What we're looking for, if there's a single document that just lists, similar to this, that lists the document class and date range, for instance, of what they're going to be working on.
Yeah, it's right here.
Okay,
So somebody might say, what what papers or what documents were restored
Sure,
and not to go through the whole
no,
quote,
they-
just to have a list.
They refer to this in their emails as object one and object two. Object one here is tax and valuation list 1771 to 1782.
Okay.
All right, and option two is 1773 highway and wood tax lists.
Okay,
And then it talks about the work you're gonna be related to that.
So just the name of the those lists, not the whole.
That's exactly it.
oh, it's those two
That's the name.
batches.
Tax and valuation lists. And they're contained in the current volume is composed of two multi-page pamphlet stitched documents in paper wrappers that have been sewn together with a third pass of thread to create a single volume. So I mean, they give exact titles of the documents. That's the first estimate, and that was for that,
I guess it's not clear. I was not looking for an
Hey,
estimate.
guys, I know
Sorry,
I'm
that's cool.
virtual and it's annoying that I'm
Yeah,
virtual. I'm sorry that I'm virtual, but it sounds like Jim has plenty of, Mr. Haggerty has plenty of information. Let's let him submit it, move forward. Like, this sounds like a sounds very logical. Let's move forward.
Here's your cost summary. Item. And there's the job that was assigned to. That was in the renewal document you guys.
Yeah, to go through that. It's not clear. I'll convert it and cut and paste and make
Okay.
it up what we need.
Here you go. This is on page 4 of the 9 pages. There is the cost summary documents, document 1.
Yep.
The prices off on the right.
Yeah, I got that. Actually, I have that email.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay. All right, we're gonna go through the IGR just to confirm. We have the scope of work nailed down. I think, anyone questions, comments, concerns on the town clerk's records project? Yeah, I think we have enough information to get a draft warrant article.
You still need, this is why I was asking for just the list,
Yeah.
not the quote. We need the historical commission to take a vote on the specific documents,
So,
not the project.
Yeah.
You need a list of the specific documents and you have to find that they are specifically, and I'll send the exact language that needs to be voted, but it's not, the project is, it's, if you read the legislation requirements for the historical commission's vote, it's really pretty specific. And it's not, we support the project or the project's historic, it's the specific documents that are being restored have to be determined to be of value, that whole language.
So I'll just say, we did make that determination. Kevin Miller, Chair of Historicals in the audience, I don't know if he has anything to say, but.
Did you have the new list? You
No,
voted
that's
those.
a new list, it just
What?
came out this week, so.
okay, yeah,
So
so,
that's the
But
vote I'm
maybe
saying
Kevin
you
can
need.
speak to it, but I suggested at the last meeting that it could potentially be at our next agenda, but I don't set the agenda, so
okay,
maybe Kevin can speak to that.
Yeah, it's not something that holds up the project. It's just, one of the Ts that has to be crossed
oh, and also, yeah.
for town meeting.
You would just say that we would need this before town meeting, but we don't need it in order to submit the warrant article.
Right, we could proceed as if.
Yeah,
they're going to
exactly.
Approve it. and-
I believe it's on our agenda. Jim sent it to us, so it's on the
Okay.
agenda, so.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
I'll send something out tonight on that.
Huh?
I'll send something out with the exact documents from the 2 NEDC proposals as well as this.
Okay.
Thank you, that's tonight.
And if
Thank
you
you.
have that, and you can send it to the NEDCC as well.
Repeat that last.
If you're sending just the documents from the ones that are being sent out,
No, Jim said he's gonna gather the information from the NEDCC estimates. And present it similar, I think, to this, right?
I'm just gonna copy and paste from the document I've already sent you.
Yep.
And put it on the bottom of that.
That is absolutely perfect. That will give the historical commission the ability to vote that the specific documents listed are, I forget the exact language, but important to the history, or significant to the history of the town of Southborough. And we can get that vote that will allow us to go to town meeting. Okay,
And I can send you the exact language.
I'm gonna send it to Kevin, just because,
yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Do we have anything else on records preservation? Okay, so we do have enough now to get a draft warrant article together.
Did this project require contingency or not?
I forget what you said.
Contingency or not, and that's.
Oh.
Your advice and the committee to decide, but. Is there anything that could change the price I'm foreseeing?
Archival supplies, that's the only wild card. We needed more money for that. But I only have $2,100 in. Another $1,000 maybe. I mean, we're talking minimum. As far as Jeremy, that's a hard number. We're not gonna go above that.
Yep.
And the NEDC numbers are solid.
Okay.
Does he want contingency?
So, yeah, do you want another
Yeah,
1,000 for?
sure.
Yeah, just in case, yeah, sure, okay.
So,
I mean, you'll approve it, we spend it anyway, so I will go to you for approval if we spend anything.
of the contingency, that's what I was gonna say. So we commonly ask for a contingency to be placed on a project, to help the applicant out. The only caveat is that if the contingency needs to be used, we ask that the applicant come and talk to us and tell us, what is driving the need to use the contingency. Okay, and if you're comfortable with that, I guess I would suggest using your number that we add a contingency of $1,000 to cover any variability in the price of the archival supplies that are going to be used, preservation supplies. Okay.
Don't want a project to not have money to finish.
Yeah. Thank you, Fred. Anything further? Okay, sounds like we're in a good place here. Did we vote last time to authorize a draft warrant article for this project?
No.
We did not.
This one I'll vote, so.
Okay, I think we now have enough information for Freddie to go forward with a draft warrant article that we can submit for legal advice. Would somebody like to move that we authorize her to do that?
So
Just a quick question. We didn't vote on any of the others, so are we gonna vote on all of them?
Can we?
we did,
We voted on the
Yeah.
trails
we did trails and
Yeah.
golf.
and the golf
Today?
last time.
Last
Oh,
time.
yeah, at the
We
last
voted on
meeting. Sorry
those
about that.
two.
Yeah.
We put a hold on this one for the
Okay.
details.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. No, so we have a motion. Is there a second? Second, thank you. All those in favor, well, we have somebody, one of our members
Yeah.
is, yeah.
So
So-
Laval, yes,
Okay, so Kristen Laval, yes.
yes,
Grant Barrington? Yes. Brett Peters?
Yes.
Ellen Myra?
Yes.
Lisa Braccio?
Yes.
Ben Smith is a yes. Okay,
Does anyone have questions?
oh my God. So.
There are no hands.
I'm
Hands up.
sorry to be the
Okay,
pain
there
in
were
the
no
butt,
hands
guys.
on
I
Zoom,
just
but-
didn't want to get you sick.
There were no hands raised in the Zoom room. However, I just want to say if there are any questions, comments, or concerns from anyone watching, please use the raise hand function and we would love to hear from you. My apologies for not asking earlier, still adjusting to the hybrid format here. Okay, next up. Southborough Historical Society completion of ADA and required site improvements at the new History and Arts Center at Bayville Village Hall. We've received a bunch of correspondence from Michael Wyshan to address to both Stuart Saganor and myself. We have not received. We've not received really any of the information that we've asked for to help us evaluate the application. First,
Okay, thanks.
good night. Has everyone had a chance to go through the emails?
Most of them.
Okay. I think it's important to go through these, if you if you looked at the distribution list on many of them, you know, a lot of them included, you know, the entirety of the Board of Selectmen and others. And there's some misunderstandings in here, and there's some things that frankly aren't true. And I thought it was important to go through some of this. And what I would suggest, I guess, is, where are we here? Okay, number 9.
So can I just interject? I can't agree with you more, but, and I'm sure you're gonna do this. Can you specify the day and the date and time in
Yeah,
which you're specifying emails?
so that's what I was trying to sort out right here. There are a total of, I think, 9 or 10 different emails. There were a few to Stuart Saganor, and then there was one lengthy one addressed to me. And
Yep.
I think the one that was addressed to me contains many of the most of the information that was contained in the ones preceding it. I think it's summarizing that, and I think it might be helpful to at least start off going through the email that was addressed to me on Tuesday, the 16th, the day before yesterday at 1:07 p.m. CC'd to Kevin Miller, Chair of Historical Commission, the Select Board, and in Grant.
Which one is that? What number?
This is number 8.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, I'm going to go through it point by point, pausing to address some. Well, it's funny, the subject matter of this was various serious issues. And if at any point somebody has questions, comments, or concerns, or wishes to speak, by all means. Please do.
And I'm so sorry to interrupt. Can you just once again say the date and time of the email?
Yes, this one was sent from Michael Wyshan, addressed to me on Tuesday, January 16th, 2024 at 1:07 p.m.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So starting off in the second paragraph, first, you know, I think many of the other committee members really value the help that we get from the Community Preservation Coalition. You know, the Community Preservation Act, subsequent court cases, guidance and regulation of DOR. It's a complicated legal and regulatory framework that we have to work within. They've been invaluable in helping us. So, you know, when it starts off, Mr. Saganor has degrees in communications and is a paid lobbyist, italicized. I think that's sort of a thinly veiled suggestion that he's not qualified to be giving advice. You know, it's not uncommon for folks to through gaining life experience to end up in a career that's different than their original course of study.
Exactly.
You know, this email is from Michael. He actually has a Wikipedia page, which I didn't realize. But so I checked that out. You know, in a similar case with Michael, his training, apparently, his education was in the classics and Romance languages. But he's a landscape and garden designer and a historian, and quite successful at that. So I would think he can respect Mr. Saganor, who similarly through gaining a bunch of experience. He's been the director for the Community Preservation Coalition since 2006. And the advice that he has given us has, frankly, it's helped us understand the legal and regulatory framework that we work with. And we have never once come across an inconsistency between his advice and, for instance, guidance from DOR for the black letter language of the Community Preservation Act. And the fact that he's a paid lobbyist, well, thank God. What he does every year is he lobbies the legislature to get us the biggest possible state match, CPA communities that we can get. And without his tireless efforts, we would not have gotten as much. He fights to increase the size of the pie so that all of our slices are bigger. Anyhow, continuing. There's some implications in the next few sentences that he has gained information solely through conversations and correspondence with Mrs. Freddie Gillespie. Either Mr. Saganor is entirely ignorant of the definition, purpose, and value of historic preservation in Massachusetts, which seems unlikely, or he's been fed questions and information by Ms. Gillespie in such a way as to predetermine a negative response. There's no other way Mr. Saganor could have come up with these responses without being supplied with biased information. We have serious legal concerns about what permanent financial harm has been done to the society by this exchange. So I took a bunch of notes going through this just to organize my thoughts. Mr. Saganor was provided with a copy of Southborough Historical's revised application and the supporting materials that they supplied with it. He was asked if he would review the application and give his thoughts to the committee. I think the biggest misunderstanding here is what we're talking about when we're talking about the Fleaville Village Hall project. I think when we talk about it and when Mr. Weishain talks about it, we're talking about different things. From his perspective, the project began many months ago. They've spent many hundreds of thousands of dollars restoring the facade, resolving flooding issues, doing structural work, a ton of work that they've done. But from the perspective of the CPC, the project is exactly what was presented in the revised application, which is the completion of ADA and required site improvements at the new History and Arts Center at Fayville Village Hall. The overwhelming majority of the work proposed in the application isn't historical preservation. And if you go through and you add up the work that actually is historical preservation that's been proposed in the revised application, for instance, restoring some floors, the front entryway, among other things, it's only 14% of the requested funds are actually directed towards the preservation of historical aspects of the building. So, let's see. I'm gonna find the language here. It's not. Yeah, please.
I mean, Ben, I'm sorry to interject and I'm sorry to interrupt, but everything you've said, just lays it out very clearly, very plainly. And we're entering in a year that I don't think we're doing it this year, but we might be doing it in the next couple of years, trying to encourage people to increase CPC funding. We
Yes.
don't need, this is messy. And it's clearly, it is clearly stretching, I guess, what can be funded with CPC. You have done so much research and I appreciate that so much. I think we can stop there, right? It's not a good project to move forward with this year, period.
Can I jump in?
Please.
Kind of piggyback, Kristen, I had the same thoughts. I am gonna take it a little step further though and say, I was very disappointed, I guess disappointed is a good word, by the emails that we were provided that the society is an applicant coming to this committee to decide whether it qualifies for funds. And the tone that these emails have taken has taken me aback. Again, if you're applying for a loan or something somewhere, you're not going to go in and start beating up the committee and telling them you know better than them. I have an issue with that. But I think the biggest thing for me at this point is there's a lot of questions. We've asked for information. It hasn't been provided. We don't have a complete application. And I think as of today, we can make a decision on this today. I don't know what one more week is going to do to bring people in and then give information later. I mean, we were dictated what we needed to do. And I take serious offense at that. As a person that sits here and is very detail oriented, every one of us put a lot of time and effort into this. So as I sit here today, I think it's an incomplete application. We haven't got the information we've asked for. And the applicant is certainly can come back at another time with a completed application, but we're on a deadline for town meeting. And Ben, I know you wanted to go through all this, but I'm
Understood.
very frustrated by what I read in these emails. And this committee has bent over backwards to try to find a way. These questions have been going on since October or November. So that's my suggestion, and it piggybacks on what Kristen said. I think we just need to take a position on this. It's incomplete. We're too close to town meeting, and that's it.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Kristen. The one thing that I would add to that is, this email was circulated far and wide.
Yeah.
We don't know if there are any BCCs, but certainly the CCs were circulated to our appointing authority. There are a number of things in there that first were quite disparaging to Freddie.
Yep.
I think wildly unfair and factually just not correct. There are a number of assertions made about things that the committee has done or has not done that aren't true. So the question is, do we want to address these things and get the truth on the record? And the truth, frankly, is fairly easy to understand, and it's fairly straightforward. And once it's out there, really difficult to deny. I personally think there's some value in doing that, but if the rest of the committee is of the mind that we have an applicant who simply hasn't complied with reasonable requests, I'll respect that, and we can certainly also course grant.
Yeah, my own thoughts on the matter, I was a recipient of some emails. I think we've all read the emails. I don't know if we need to hash it out really. I know that the applicant is in the audience. We have some outstanding questions. I don't know if we want to do that or not, but maybe
Can
we
we
can,
please?
can we try to see if we can move forward. If we can't move forward, come to a vote at some time. I think is probably the best. In my personal opinion, I don't know if we need to go through to the emails if we read them.
Okay.
But
But that's just me. I don't know what everyone else
I
thinks.
do think we need to, I agree, Ben, that we need to set the record straight. Because if someone down the road made a public records request, this is what they're gonna see. And they're not gonna know what really happened. So I agree with Ben. We can, whether we take a position on this or not, I think it's a two-pronged decision tonight. It's to whether to move forward with this and whether to respond to set the record straight on these emails and the misinformation that was given regarding Freddie.
100% agree.
Okay.
Can
Yeah, please.
I make a comment?
Yes.
Not only in these emails, but the ones that were sent previously accusing me of illegal actions. These are libelous statements and a defamation of my character. If these are said in this meeting, they become slanderous. And the fact that these are public records and have been sent to the Board of Selectmen, I feel something needs to be done because I'm a public official. You have to prove malice. It's a little bit further that the person who made these comments knew better or should have known better. And I think many of these proved malice. So I think, I have some real serious concerns when I've been accused of things that are outright. This goes beyond just being unfortunate misinformation. These are, have
So-
legal consequences.
So Freddie, I 100% agree with you, obviously. And I think we need to start breaking this down a little bit into specific items that we need to address, right? Because what you just introduced, like, there's a lot now that we're talking about. So I think we have to break this down. If that makes sense, into specific items and then discuss each, you know, whatever, give an opinion on each, because to Freddie's point, this is multi-layered. And she has a personal stake in the game.
That's along the lines of what I was hoping to do, going through this one email that seems to capture just about everything. You know, some erroneous information, but also some things that we simply have to set the record straight on. Would folks be comfortable if I continued just going through the email? I'll try not to take too much time up with it. You know, the next paragraph is
Ben, fully
yeah.
appreciate that, and let's not, like, let's take the time it takes, right?
Okay.
Like, let's not be worried about the time it takes, like, this is important.
I appreciate that. Thank you. The email then moves on to, frankly, an attack on Freddie. She is taking a salary from the town as a paid consultant to sit at meetings when she refuses to nominate a member of the Open Space Committee, which she chairs, to the long empty CPC seat. So I would expect that Michael, as the former chair of Southborough Historical Commission, knows how difficult it is to fill an empty seat. We only have 6 members out of 9, and getting to 6 was very difficult. I really thought we were going to be left unable to even form a quorum. So getting somebody to fill a single seat is difficult. Finding somebody who, after filling a seat, will then take a second seat on another committee. Obviously, it's not impossible. Many of us do it. It's a very rare thing. It's very, very difficult. Freddie can't simply point at an open space member and say, "You're it, attend the meetings." That person has to agree to it. And the Open Space Commission itself doesn't have a full slate. It's so, I'm correct on that, yes?
Yeah, and getting an appointment to the CPC is on every agenda.
Yeah.
We discuss it with, I have all new members who don't even know what the Open Space Commission's work is.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get up to speed as fast as they can. And it's situations like this that make it impossible to get a full commission. I've had people lined up, and then because of other negative comments that were brought forth and stated at the Board of Selectmen from Michael again, have been a cause why people have backed off and not wanting to join the commission. It's this kind of stuff that makes it harder and harder to fill a commission. People do not want to be subjected to what we have to go through.
And for good reason.
And that's not as my consultant role, which is different.
It continues on. She also uses a private Gmail account for CPA matters, which is a violation of open meeting law. So it's my understanding that Freddie has a town account for her role as chair of the Open Space Preservation Commission. She's been instructed by Mark Purple in her role as a consultant to the committee to not use that account and to use a private account like every other contractor to the town of Southborough. I spoke with Jim Haggerty, who knows a great deal about, well, first, this wouldn't be governed by open meeting law. This is public records law, which Mr. Haggerty happens to know a lot about. And I spoke with him earlier about it tonight. It is completely silent on the matter. There have been several court cases involving people who use private accounts for public volunteer work. There's never been a problem found. It's not a violation of either open meeting law nor public records law.
But I was instructed by Mark Purple, the town administrator, that I was not allowed to use my town meeting, my town government email account for CP business. And as you know, when it happens by mistake, I let people know. Please don't use.
We're not gonna solve that today, but can we, like, earmark that as an item to look into a little bit further?
Well, it sounds like we know the rules.
Yeah.
You're doing the right thing, but with this committee, you're using your Gmail account, which is what you have been told and what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So I think we're just airing the fact that this email is completely incorrect when he's accusing her of doing something wrong.
And
Okay,
I'm-
but we need to address that.
I wanted to, I think when we get through to the end of this, Kristen, I would suggest that at the end of this, we can talk about further steps needed to sufficiently address this.
Sure.
This was one matter that, I mean, he's accusing Freddie of breaking the law. That's a serious, in my mind, a serious
Oh,
accusation.
100%. And
Uh,
I'm sorry, I don't mean to divert, but like, as we note these things, let's just mark other action items that we need to take up.
Certainly. Continues on during the meeting, she talks over other commission members, interrupts the petitioners, and generally dominates the meeting. In fact, she talks more than anyone else in the commission, including you. This is not consultancy. This is paid board membership.
Oh, God.
So let me look through my notes here. First, I'm sure everybody has noticed when Freddie wants to speak. In my role as chair, she'll raise her hand, or she'll say, "Can I speak on this?" Or every single time. I've not seen her interrupt any petitioner. I think the rest of us are far more guilty of it than she is, frankly.
Yeah.
Now, the fact that Freddie does a lot of talking is because Freddie is our consultant. She is our interface to the Community Preservation Coalition, to the town accountant, to the town treasurer, and various other bodies. Because we simply don't have the time to do this work. Freddie, we at our direction will coalition will sit down with Carla and go through. I mean, let's face it, going through the budget is Freddie deserves a medal for the work she does with that. And then she comes back and reports to us. And because it's complicated stuff, it takes a while to sort of pound it through our skulls. Of course she talks a lot, because that is exactly the job that we ask of her.
100%. 100%.
And finally, well, this isn't finally, continuing, I should say, long had a problem with Mr. Gillespie's definition of what qualifies as historic preservation, as of all previous and current SHC chairs. The views in the matter are self-generated misconceptions that fly in the face of preservation industry standard. I think here we have another problem with perspective. You know, in other parts of this email, Michael talks about what he views historical preservation as. And you know what? Some of his points are valid.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between historic preservation in general, writ large, as opposed to what historic preservation is under the CPC.
As a historian, he takes a very broad and expansive view of what is historical preservation. He uses the example of the town's records and includes things even like a safe space to store the records. And I couldn't agree more. And in fact, in I think the last 3 meetings, I've spoken about the terrible storage conditions in town, and my wish that we could use CPA funds help fix this. Our role is to approve what the CPA and the DOR define as historical preservation. And it's a very narrow definition. I understand that the applicant may be in the audience. I'm going to read this again, Michael, for your benefit. This is right out of DOR's 2019 informational guideline release, talking about the preservation of municipal records, historic records. Funding for cataloging, indexing, scanning, digitizing, transcribing, or otherwise preserving the information content of municipal documents, rather than preserving or restoring the physical historic resource itself, is not allowable. Now, we're not going to break the law. So I think at root, it's a simple misunderstanding. Well, I won't get into the tone of the misunderstanding, but hopefully that explanation speaks for itself.
Right.
But the other point is that I don't know what the point of this argument is related to a completely different CPC proposal? Like, what are the terms
Yeah.
of Jim Haggerty's
I think
proposal
he's
have to do with this one?
I
I
think
don't know why
he's
it's being argued here.
attacking our competency in making these judgments. And because we don't agree with him on the nature of historical preservation work. Again, we're told what historical preservation is by the CPA and by the DOR. Next, there are a list of bullet points, and the first three or so. I think, frankly, we've already covered, and they stem from a misunderstanding about what the actual project is, and our difference in perspectives. But starting with the fourth one, biased and prejudicial statements regarding poor fee activities by the society when every other CPA non-funded nonprofit like Chestnut Hill and the golf course charge fees. So I'm the one who asked how much the Bayville Hall, once completed, will be open to the public versus used for fee-only activities. It wasn't an accusation, it was a question, because we come up against the anti-aid amendment here. This is a private organization receiving public funds, and the anti-aid amendment is front and center in figuring out whether or not this is funded. We have to know, we have to be shown that the substantial benefit of the funding accrues to the town. And part of that is how much access is the town going to have? So that was what I was trying to sound out by asking that question.
Yep.
We don't want to run afoul of the Massachusetts Anti-Aid Fund amendment. Now, a similar question wasn't asked to the golf course committee because the property is town owned. Okay, the Anti-Aid amendment literally doesn't apply to municipal properties.
Actually, I asked the question about the fees of golf course. Okay, I still have an issue with that.
Yeah.
But it's an excellent point. So it's an important point.
Now Chestnut Hill Farm, yeah, they definitely have poor fee activities. I definitely wish they didn't, but they do. Here's the thing, the town purchased a conservation restriction on the property from the Beals family. And what the town purchased was a CR that prevents the property from ever being developed, and it guarantees public access to it. And it addresses where and how for-profit activities take place. But again, in terms of the anti-aid amendment, the benefit of the CR clearly accrues to the town, and great effort was made to ensure that that's the case. Yeah, and also, yeah, because it's a CR, just like a PR, it's in perpetuity. So next bullet item, unreasonable and contradictory demands for financial documentation that far exceed anything asked from other organizations, including one for our current bank statement, from one source to prove we are financially viable, and from another to prove that we were sufficiently poor to need money. We need this, we asked for this information to make sure that we don't violate the anti-aid. We need to, again, make sure that the benefit of the project accrues to the town. We have to determine who is substantially benefiting from any recommended grant. Part of that's determining to what extent the preserved features are going to be available to the public. And another is ensuring that access remains in perpetuity. So what's that have to do with asking for these records? Now, we've been told that the society has no intention of putting a preservation restriction on the property.
Right.
What if there's an economic downturn, or the other
Right,
example was,
and then
what
they
if somebody
sell it.
trips and falls and there's a lawsuit, or their insurance rates skyrocket and they have to sell the building.
Exactly.
Now, how does the public then experience the benefit of the historical preservation work inside the building under a new property? We have to know, is the society, are they economically viable? Are they going to be surviving into the future for the long term? I've touched on the preservation restriction aspect of it, which is a whole different thing. But the suggestion that we haven't asked this information of other applicants. So the society has refused to give a lot of the information we asked for about the contract and work performed to date. We asked this to the Trails Committee, right, of their previous projects and how this relates to it, and we got everything that we asked for. With the golf course, it's even easier. It's a town entity. So
Yeah.
Freddie called up Carlisle and said, can you give us a current snapshot of their revolving fund, which is essentially their bank account? And we didn't just get the balance, we got all the deposits made this year and all the account activity.
Yeah.
So we've asked for the exact same information from other applicants.
I
Next,
just add one thing then too, and I think there's additional due diligence as well, because this is a project that's already had a ton of work done on it already. This isn't,
Yeah.
I know St. Mark's was referenced, and St. Mark's was
it came to us before they started.
correct, before they started. So I think that's just another point to make, that this is almost complete. And these are some of the last things to be done. So it's a little bit different.
Lisa, you're absolutely right, because then we run into, we have to worry about the non-supplanting clause of the CPA. The work has already been done and paid. But we can't reimburse for that. We have to know what's been done, what's been paid for. We simply have to. We can't
Exactly.
make a decision without it.
Well,
Did I-
guys, I thought that the email that we reviewed in the last meeting from the coalition was pretty, like, I thought it was pretty clear that on what we could move forward with and what we could not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what am I missing here?
There was a response by Mr. Weishan to that email as well, that we haven't quite gotten to either, but I think a lot of this is Michael disagrees with the coalition, with what the
Okay,
coalition.
well, I mean, it's the coalition, so
Yeah.
in all respect to Michael, like, and I appreciate all that he does for the town and all that he does for the historical commission, but I mean, that's the governing body.
Well, a body with expertise. I just want to correct that they're not a governing body, but they are a body with a great deal of expertise. And frankly, when they give us advice, they are explaining to us the DOR's guidance. And
So
explaining
where
to
would
us
we
like
go?
case law.
And I think we all support what they're saying, so where would we go from here, I guess, like, rather than debating like the rights or wrongs or whatever, we have an
Yeah.
opinion, he disagrees, where do
Yeah.
we go from here?
I don't know that there's anywhere to go. I just wanted to say as clearly as I could, if I could, verbalize the committee's position, trying to capture that.
Okay, I'm
Uh,
sorry, and I
yeah.
didn't mean to inhibit
Oh,
that,
no,
I'm sorry.
No, please. So yeah, we're almost done here. The next bullet item, unreasonable demands for a preservation restriction. It is not required for CPA funding. And the demand that we supply you information on that from MHC when it's clearly the responsibility of the CPC to provide such information. So another thing from the 2019 informational guideline release from DOR, page 55. This talks about funding and being when funding is allowable for work on a privately owned building that has been determined by the local historic preservation commission to be significant in the history, archaeology, architecture, or culture of the city or town, in exchange for the municipality's receipt of a historic preservation restriction from the nonprofit, provided the expenditure falls within the CPA definition of rehabilitation, is not maintenance, and the work complies with the standards for rehabilitation stated in the U.S. Secretary of the Interior's standards for the treatment of historic properties. So we have required a PR on the historic preservation of every building funded with CPA funds, starting after the South Union School. One was not required there, and it was a big mistake. So we have been absolutely consistent since that point. This goes beyond a strong suggestion from the DOR. It is absolutely the current best practice amongst CPA communities. And frankly, because this is, this is something that I don't know that the committee has ever done before. Usually what happens is we purchase a preservation restriction. Right? Now, the funds that we pay for the preservation restriction, they may well be used for repair of the building, but what we're buying is the preservation restriction. Here, we would actually be paying for the repairs to a private building.
Right.
The anti-aid amendment here becomes critical. We have to figure out, is there a way for this to be structured and understood that we're not running afoul of the anti-aid amendment? Because this is private property, we're not buying a preservation restriction. In my mind, I don't see how it can be done without a preservation restriction. How we can say that the benefit of this project is accrues substantially to the town and not simply to the society. Just one member, I can't get past that. In the DOR, their guidance is really clear on this.
I hope everybody's reading.
So
I agree.
let's see. Final bullet item. Demands for fully documented estimates when at this stage placeholders are the norm, while simultaneously accusing us of having established contracts that would invalidate CPC funding. We requested information supporting the figures that appear in the Historical Society's initial and revised budget. We do this of all applicants. When we request, when funds are requested, CPA funds are requested. Placeholders are absolutely not the so Mr. Hegarty was just in here, the town clerk, for his project. He provided us with actual written proposals from Northeast Document Conservation Center. He also provided us with an estimate prepared by a professional document preservationist. Now, he's correct that actual bids are often unavailable. So in these cases, yeah, we ask for an estimate from somebody with expertise. So in the case of the Burroughs Loop project, estimates were prepared by the Trails Committee's consulting engineer. Golf course irrigation project, the estimate was prepared by New England Golf, who has expertise in it. Other projects, the townhouse, the library, the St. Mark's Bell Tower by Lynn Spencer, who's a licensed architect and is professionally qualified to prepare these estimates. The idea that placeholders are the norm, it's simply not the case. I just want to dispel that. Finally, at the end of the email, I gotta get the language here. I don't know there. Okay, this will hopefully give. Yeah, this is where he indicates that he and Kevin Miller and perhaps John Billy Pascoli would like to attend a meeting on the 24th. This will hopefully give sufficient time for us to review the public records requests we made to see who, if anyone, is stirring the pot here, because something is very wrong in the state of Denmark.
The public records request that they make?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. None that I'm. That comes up in one of the other emails. I'll get to that in a second. No one's stirring the pot here. I think at heart, the problem is this difference of perspective and just some misunderstandings. I understand the perspective of the society. And if our role was simply to decide whether or not this is a great project and will be wonderful in the town of Southborough, I'm pretty confident it would be a unanimous vote yes, and it would happen pretty quickly. But what we're called upon to do is to see whether or not the application is fundable under the Community Preservation Act and the guidelines and regulations of the DOR and is in line with current best practices CPA fees. We have to look at it through a very narrow lens, and I think that's the cause of much of the misunderstanding here.
May I add one thing?
Yeah, please.
Something very wrong in the state of Denmark. I think one of the things that's wrong is this committee has asked for information going back months that we haven't been provided.
Yep.
So in my mind, that's what I view as part of the problem. I mean, I think this committee could have said at the time, when it first came in, and they were unallowed things that, you know, a no, but the door has been kept open.
Yeah.
To continually review this and offer an opportunity to come back, and I mean, I think that was the hope of everyone, that we could reach some understanding, just like you said, Ben. But, again, that's what I think is wrong in the state of Denmark.
So, this is one of a number of emails. This, I think, hits the main points. Some of the emails to Mr. Saganor, the 2 emails to Mr. Saganor, I would just say that, the tone was regrettable. Reasonable people can disagree, absolutely. But the tone was very regrettable. So one question I have is, we've now gone through this publicly. It's on Zoom, so it's been recorded. It's going to be posted to YouTube. I'm of 2 minds on this.
Can I make one more comment? Let me finish.
Oh, of course, yeah. I'm not gonna wrap up yet. Just to get this out there. I'm curious what the committee thinks, if anything, should be done in terms of correcting the record, in particular with our appointing authority, the select board. Have we done enough here tonight? In a way, I think we might have. Should we be responding to this in writing and go back and forth on that? I don't know.
There's no guarantees that anybody's gonna watch this from our appointing authority, so I think the points you've made tonight, Ben, should be drafted in a letter, and it should go to the select. That's
I
just,
agree
again,
with
I'm
that.
one of,
I disagree, and
oh, that's fine.
just my personal opinion is, every time, we can't respond to every negative comment that's made about, if somebody starts sending us hate mail or something, first of all, we should report it, but we can't just spend committing time every time going over false statements that were made against us. And it's a free country, people can make false statements against us, but I don't think we need a formal action to do what exactly, to just say that we disagree. I mean, I think we just spent an hour doing that right now.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
Grant, I am split. I 100% agree with you, but at the same time, it doesn't happen often, right? It's not like this is a constant issue. And I think in this case, I agree with Lisa. Like it's appropriate to respond, is my opinion.
This is in the 8 years that I've been on the committee, this is certainly a one-off type of situation so far. Let me just say, I really hope it remains that way. It's not, pleasant to deal with. As far as the points that I made going through it, I put together notes that I could turn into a document easily enough. If it's the wish of the committee, for that to be sent to the selectmen, just to get a written response.
It sounds like we should take a vote.
Okay, but before that, Freddie had asked if she could add.
I did one thing that I just wanted to comment on. It was sort of skipped over in your review. It was at the beginning. I want to let this committee know that I never fed information to Stuart Saginaw to predetermine a negative response. My role and goal and professional position is always, we want to get as many good CPA projects done as possible in this town. When I say we, I mean the community who voted for a CPA. To ensure that things are done correctly. Does it meet the criteria? Is it fundable? And what are the requirements for the anti-aid amendment, which is a whole, it's relates to, and we're under pressure, the committee for, as you heard at the last meeting, for funding private properties. one of the things and I've talked with Ben about this after this go around is to, this town meeting, is to come up with a plan of, the committee needs to have better understanding of what that requires and a defined process as part of your review. It's a significant responsibility that's separate from just, does it meet the criteria? It's a whole other area that we hadn't really dealt with before, and it came up this year. Some of the angst was about the Balcony, the grain silo. And then it came up again with the fire truck. So that had nothing to do specifically with this project, but rather what are our responsibilities to adhere to that? And those questions were asked before we reviewed this application. And then it came up again. I had no bias against this project or the applicant because that's not how I operate. And it is unfortunate, but there was a prior email that wasn't totally addressed well because it accused me of illegal activity, and there's a legal threat in this email as well. And as I'm an employee of the town, and this was sent to the Board of Selectmen, I feel very concerned by this. And certainly anyone can send any email they want to anyone they want. But when you're dealing with an application in front of the Community Preservation Committee, the question is, why are you sending the emails to the Board of Selectmen if you're not expecting them to take action in some way? And the only, specifically calling me out here over and over again, it's, I
In this
appreciate
email and
so-
others,
what?
in this email and in others.
Yeah, it wasn't just this email, and, I never addressed, and I feel I need to go back and address the outright misinformation about any illegal activity. And so that this was in reference to a prior public records request where I spoke with the head legal attorney who reviews public records requests, who reviews if somebody appeals them, to go over what my actions had been and have been fully assured that there was nothing inappropriate about any action I took. And in fact, I check before I take action. I have a tendency to go to whatever state agency overviews public records request. I made the inquiries. So I did nothing illegal, and to be called out for doing that is in fact defamation of character. And that's the problem. This here meets all that criteria, and to just let it sit out there, it's not right to me or fair to me. So I don't know how I should respond.
You have my full support as I sit here on the job that you've done and everything that you've done for CPC going way back. So I thank you, and I value what you bring to this committee as a consultant. As someone that's new here, that is learning the ropes, I have reached out to you multiple times to ask questions outside of a meeting to have better insight when I come into a meeting to understand. So I thank you and know that I support you in the great job that you're doing.
Freddie has been involved with the CPA in Southborough since before its adoption. It's now been 2 decades. She knows more about bringing the act to Southborough, its implementation, and the work of the committee through these 2 decades than any other person in the community. And that's not an exaggeration. And the help that she gives us with her knowledge of the act and knowing how it's evolved just through these couple of decades, through court cases, through continued guidance from DOR and so forth, is an incredible help. Knowing the history of different projects, how they were funded and why, incredibly helpful. And I shudder to think where we would be without Freddie's help. And, even in the face of something like this, Freddie and I talk frequently. I was frustrated to see some of this stuff. And Freddie even said to me, remember, what you do is you fund projects, not people. Even in the face of this, it just makes the ad hominem attacks that much more more distasteful to me because it's so incredibly unwarranted.
And I'd like to make one more comment that, to Ben's statement that he's, in his 8 years, he's never seen anything like this. We have had controversial projects in the past. We've had projects where somebody wanted something funded that couldn't be funded. Or projects where someone wanted it done a different way, or somebody who was mad that we were putting something forward. There are always pushes and pulls, right? I've never seen anything like this in 20 years. We adopted the CPA in 2003. And I would also like you to know that before we adopted it, I was chosen from another organization I was involved with by the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. Before it was EOEA, the secretary had a program, and I went paid for by the Commonwealth to attend a 12-week course on Community Preservation Act. We had a deep dive. These were, people from different communities, state felt worthwhile to invest in, and we did a deep dive into all aspects of the CP. It came from an open space perspective. I learned about historical and housing and open space, and 12 weeks. We had to do a term project. This was not a simple little Zoom meeting. It was a big commitment. We had a big graduation ceremony. I came into this educated and knowledgeable, and had been asked in the early days, even before Stuart was hired, to give presentations for the Community Preservation Coalition. And I will tell you that it keeps changing. More information comes in. When we first adopted it, Southborough was one of the early adopters. There weren't as many DOR guidelines. A lot of this is by court case. Things have been better defined. I will say one of the best things I bring to this committee is not my knowledge, but my knowledge of who to ask. When there's a question, who do you go to? So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
So,
Thank you. Yeah,
so
Kristen.
Ben, can you hear me okay? I know
Yes.
I'm on speaker. I had to step away for 5 minutes, put the kids to bed, admittedly.
Yeah.
But but when I came back on, it seems like we're talking about Freddie's qualifications.
Yeah.
So correct me if I'm out of place in saying this and just stop me, but I have been involved in community politics for some time. I joined recreation however many years ago, I don't even know, in CPC the last couple of years. I've never met anyone like Freddie who has invested her time to understand every nuance of the regulations and the rules regarding this. And when I joined CPC, she has taken an incredible amount of time on her own to educate me. So I missed whatever brought this conversation on, but I can't emphasize enough that her contributions to this town are not only not self-directed, she has no personal game in this, but she knows more than any of us when it comes to CPC and when it comes to this, and she's just trying to direct us in the right direction. And I'm sorry if I'm coming in and this is off topic, because I did have to put my kids to bed, but I came in and I heard Freddie talking about our qualifications, and I just can't double down enough on them. Just purely intentional to help the community, and that is it.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you, Kristen. So
I'll just say thank you. I do feel the support of this committee, and I will also say there are times I'm not on the committee, but when I was on the committee, I know what it was like. And sitting here, there are still times when I may disagree. But as your consultant, it's only my job to give you information. And
there's no bias. You are going by the law.
And I'm very thankful and thank you for what I'm hearing as support, and I'm seeing nodding heads. I think this whole situation is really unfortunate, but I don't think we can just sit here and let it sit out there. These negative accusations against
No,
you.
and as a committee, I don't think we should either. I actually, Ben would put forward that as a committee, we might want to put forward a statement if this is out there. I don't know. I'm not following
Yeah, I mean, it is
the
insofar.
blogs. I'm not following the blogs lately. I don't know what's out there, but if there is anything out there that's negative, then I think we should.
Well, it was forwarded to the entirety of the Board of Selectmen. There are, the most important board in town. They are our appointing authority. So it sounds like among most of the committee, there's a will to put together a written response. I would be happy to work on that. If the committee is okay with that. I would ask, we can't work on this as a quorum outside of the meeting, of course. So one suggestion or one idea is if one other member worked with me.
I would like to raise my hand.
Okay,
Perfect.
perfect. If that's okay with the committee, then, especially Kristen to have a second set of eyes and to, help identify any gaps in what I've written, it would be incredibly helpful. And the idea would be,
If the rest of the committee agrees with it, obviously you guys can all hear, I feel a certain passion for it, but, and I understand that can sometimes be negatively seen, but if you guys would allow, I have worked for many, many years with Freddie at this point, and I'm just asking the opportunity to read whatever Ben writes and add my 2 cents.
so that's just one idea. Anyone in the committee has a different idea, by all means. Okay, so I guess what I would do is work with Kristen to put together a document just covering what we've spoken about. And much more succinctly than my several pages of notes here. Just to set the record straight with the Board of Selectmen and anyone else viewing these public records.
Yep.
Okay, so and Grant, I understand that you have some reservations about that. I should say something. I've been in your position. It's happened several times on the Conservation Commission where out of the 7 members, I'm the lonely one voting against something, and it's an uncomfortable position, but it's really important.
It is
And
important.
I just want to say that I also support Freddie and I disagree with much of what was in the email. I just don't, in my opinion, I don't think it works.
Yep.
And I also think, having seen other committees do this, that sometimes it elevates something
Yeah.
that really
Yep.
Yeah.
shouldn't be.
I
But
agree.
That's why I'll be voting against, but
that's exactly.
I hope we write a good letter.
Can you?
Wait, so Grant, I actually want to understand a little bit more about that. Not being as familiar with the situations that you're describing, like I actually really want to understand where a letter has actually made things worse.
This is just my opinion. I remember an advisory commission meeting from 2 or 3 years ago in which somebody had written a letter to the editor on the blog, opinion
Yep.
piece. And then advisory kind of did something that we did here in which they spent an hour going through why everything in the letter was wrong. And then I can't remember if they voted on it to correct the record, to put something else on the blog, to counter it. And it just got into.
Okay, so maybe,
That-
but
that's
Grant,
my-
that's really good. Maybe we should learn from that, right?
Yeah,
So-
I mean, there's the risk of granting legitimacy to something by responding. That's where I've gone sort
Yeah.
of forth on the idea.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is a circumstance that I haven't been in with the committee before, and I feel,
Yeah.
you know what, I feel very defensive and protective of the committee when it's attacked. I want to make sure that, that the truth gets out there. So.
And I get it, Grant. This could extend this whole conversation, this
Right.
whole email, but I
Yes, they're
think
gonna be a rebut to
we
this.
just decide this is it. This is all we have to say. We have to be on record for this. And I will just add one other thing, Ben, if I
Yes,
may,
please.
regarding bias that's come up. this committee at a past meeting, like the last meeting or the meeting before, talked about, we wish this had came to us at the beginning. We were all supportive of this, but it made it harder because the majority of the historical work's already been done, which made our job that much harder. So I don't know what's biased, about that. And I just want to be on the record for that, that we were all very supportive and had wished it had came to us sooner in the process until there was just a few things left to complete. It would have been a very different conversation, I'm sure.
So at this point, Freddie, if you have one more thing,
You can, I don't see any, my personal feeling is, I don't see any urgency right now. That you can write this and then come back to the committee, you have something written that everyone can review. And then decide what you want to do with it. Maybe you just minutes.
Mm.
Leave it alone.
I don't know, I think
Freddie, I
Ben's-
disagree. I think we should just nip it in the bud and move fast.
And I think
Like,
Ben's
I
already
do
brought
think
up-
there's some urgency to just, if we're gonna do this, let's do it.
I agree. And Ben's already brought up the points, Kristen, so I don't think there's anything too much more to add to what Ben's already gone through.
Oh, no,
So I
so-
think it'd be relatively simple.
to be clear, I would only cover things that have been covered here this evening, and I would not go outside of those bounds in any way. And
Not comfortable
that's
with
why I would want another committee member here to make sure, to keep me within those bounds.
I'm
So-
comfortable with that.
So I guess.
Hey,
at this
you know
point-
what? I'm actually offering, like, I was gonna be that person, but obviously I think I'm fired up a little bit. So, Grant, do you want to be the other person to read it and be like, the voice of reason? Because you're, and I'm saying this honestly to respect your position. Like, I'm fired up, so I want to read what he has to say. But do you want to read it just to maybe temper it?
I don't think I need to do that.
Okay.
I think if the commission wants to write a letter, that's fine. We can finalize the wording. I don't think we need to have a say.
Okay. So thank you. If you did, I would say that 3 people is still not a quorum.
Sure, yeah.
But just to put that out there. Okay, so at this point, I guess we'd be looking for a motion to authorize me, the chair, and Kristen, vice chair, to work together, put together a letter that will be addressed to the Board of Selectmen.
Yes.
Correcting the inaccuracies in this correspondence, as we've discussed here in the meeting tonight.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so we've got with somebody online, we'll do a roll call vote. Kristen Laval,
Yes.
Brett Farrington?
No.
No. Brett Peters? Yes. Ellen Meyer,
Yes.
Lisa Brush,
Yes.
and Ben Smith is a yes. Okay. Now, we've gotten through that part of it. Now we're back, Lisa. I think Kristen also. Spoke about where we are in the process with this application. The fact that we haven't received, I don't think any of the information that we've asked for, going back to, I think it was the first week in November. We've provided as many opportunities as humanly possible to an application that was already submitted very late in the game. I don't know that we have any time left to correct the deficiencies here in the information that we have. Our articles are due on the 26th. So there are a couple of ways to deal with this. One is, we don't have to take a vote. I'm not sure exactly what there is to vote on, if I'm being perfectly frank.
Should we vote to close the application? It's incomplete?
Because normally we vote in the positive, we vote to write the warrant, but we're voting against against that? Is that something?
So this-
you would-
Yeah, I guess all I'm saying is that, I don't think it's necessary to actually conduct the vote against.
Okay.
But, if the committee feels strongly that we should, actually do this by vote, we can do it that way. I'm just trying to think of the best path forward.
Kristen, what are your thoughts? You've been on it longer than me and most of us.
In terms of whether the application's not complete, right?
Whether we take a
And-
vote,
Yeah, do you feel we should actually this evening take a vote that, we're
No,
close-
I don't. The application is not complete. I don't think a vote's even necessary. I think,
okay, fair enough.
That's sort of where I fall out on it too, Kristen. Thank
Okay.
you.
The other thing I guess I would ask is like, so do we have another meeting on the 24th or no?
Well, that's another agenda item we're gonna get to pretty quickly here.
Okay, I guess my question would be like, would we vote no to say we're not gonna talk about it next time by not taking any vote?
no, we
Is that, you know,
just,
an hour
no,
on
we
the
just
second
don't
time?
take a vote. If they want to come back with a complete application, which I don't think they will, like, fine, but
Yeah, it's hard to imagine that the information would be assembled in time for a week from tonight.
right,
And give us time to
And give us
process.
time to actually process it.
yeah.
Should we reach out at least? I mean, I think we're doing a similar thing at the golf course, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
of course, notify them, but I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
guys, it's not
opportunity to
our
get on the
purview to
documents,
push
but-
their agenda. Like,
Yeah, no,
so I previously have sent an email, listing all the information that we are seeking. I have sent that email in the past. Unless the committee strongly felt that needs to happen again, I think that request has already been made. I think our discussion here tonight, I think we've sent a loud and clear message that we are unable to act
Yep.
without the information that we've asked for. If somehow it got to us in time that we can review it before the meeting, there is still an outside chance, I guess, that something could happen. We've talked about meetings on the 24th and the 31st.
We need both at this point, which is one.
I don't know that we do. And
Was the 31st after?
The 26th,
it's after the deadline. Frankly, I don't have a reasonable expectation. We're gonna get this information. We've got correspondence
Well, I think it's
flatly refusing.
Right.
Well, correspondence, in fact.
I agree. It's like, why do we
instructing
even
us to-
talk, like,
Yeah, we're
why do we
more-
even talk about it until if they happen to come forward with some more information in the next week?
There's more information.
Well, I mean, I think the last sentence, once we have
Yeah.
some assurance that this will get moved to the town meeting floor, we can discuss what reasonable additional documentation we
Um,
might require. I mean, I think we've made clear what we're gonna require, and I don't know, that-
We're not gonna make a decision in the absence of this information. It's, honestly, as chair, like, I don't think. I'm not really one to lay down the law, but I wouldn't even entertain a motion.
I
It's-
support you.
you do.
So I don't have a reasonable expectation we're gonna get this information, but if we were supplied with all this information with sufficient time to review it
Post.
and post the meeting, then my inclination would be, we hold the meeting.
Fair enough.
You need a meeting on either the 24th,
Right.
which we don't have a room and we don't
Right.
have,
Oh,
Right.
we don't have this room, so that means no recording. Or the 31st, which I believe we do have this room. You need that for the golf course and trails.
And not to be
Yeah.
rude, but like, we don't have those meetings scheduled. So,
Right. No, they're, at this point, they're penciled in, so I'm sorry. You know what, we've drifted off the agenda. Well, actually, we haven't. We've decided that we are not going to vote on the, Historical Society application. So the next agenda item is next meeting dates, which we've moved on to. So we're formally there now. My suggestion is we plan on next meeting on the 31st. We leave open the possibility that we get an influx of information very early next week. That would give us time to review it so that we could have an actual productive meeting. But in the absence of being provided with the information we've asked, I won't post an agenda or schedule a meeting.
You need to schedule a meeting for the other.
We have to approve the warrants for the two.
Right, which can happen after legal review and after the deadline. We have to get these, people call them placeholder amendments in.
So if we decided on a change on the 31st, we could put that through.
We can still,
Yeah.
we've made changes up until literally the day before it goes to the printer. For the best.
Just sometime in February, I think.
Sorry. You would like. There's an expectation that trails and golf course are coming back next. Not at the last minute, so you could have a meeting to have. And
And also to go to the MOUs.
the MOUs plus gyms.
Yep.
Finalization.
Yep.
So I don't know why you wouldn't have that on the 31st.
Yep.
And that your comment is, if you don't get the information from the Historical Society, you won't put that on the agenda, but that you would still have the meeting to get. You have to start tying this stuff up.
Yep.
Having all your applications out there without voted on warrant articles is not great.
Yeah, everybody else has gotten us the information that we've asked for, and it's allowed us to proceed with their applications. Let's plan on, if everyone still has the availability, on the 31st. Yeah. Which is the Wednesday. Okay. So that is our next meeting date.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm feeling a bit of,
And that's okay that it's after the 26th. It's kind of more of a loose deadline for this kind of thing.
Yeah,
Okay, I just want to make sure. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I gave you kind of a half-hearted review there.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Well,
can I step back?
I'm just gonna say, if we got all of that information that we've asked for, very early next week, Monday or Tuesday morning or something like that.
Couldn't post for a Wednesday meeting.
We
We'd have
can't,
to
oh,
post
it's
Monday.
Wednesday. We have to,
24th is Wednesday. We'd have to post Monday.
Sorry, I didn't mean to confuse things. So
no, that's okay.
my understanding is we voted on having warrant or placeholder warrant articles
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
So that's the action that has to be done by January 26th. Nothing else has to be done on that by
Yeah.
January 26th.
Let me, can I
Please.
explain this?
Okay,
Yeah.
because we're working against the deadline.
So-
I want to make sure we meet it.
The deadline is for the warrant articles. To have what we call placeholders in, that are being legally reviewed.
Okay.
That is not the quote requirement. But we run up into this every year so that it keeps us with a warrant article, and the final language can be adjusted, but you have to have a warrant article at the select board. And if you haven't reviewed a project, I don't know how you can put a placeholder in for it. So I think the placeholder has to be in by the 26th.
Okay, so we have for the three projects, not the.
Plus the two bonds, plus your budget.
Okay, thank you.
But I don't know how that relates to the,
That's right. So the 24th
Windows.
is a Wednesday.
Yeah.
That information would literally have to get to us tomorrow or Saturday morning. In order for us to have time to review and get a meeting posted, if we were to review it on the 24th in time for the 26th. And I just have to note again, we didn't create this set of circumstances. We asked for this information for months now. I'm still hesitant to 100% close the door. I think it's extraordinarily unlikely we're going to see the information. If somehow it happened, I will reach out by email. and see if there's some way to, that we could meet to at least discuss it, potentially to get the warrant article together if the information is satisfactory enough to fund some aspects of the project. Is that,
Yeah, that's all we can do.
And that could be a Zoom meeting.
and that could be a Zoom meeting. From some of the statements in the recent correspondence, I think it's unlikely we won't see that information, but I don't want to slam the door. So
Fair enough.
there we are. Okay, we've done next meeting dates. Continued review of closing out projects. I've got some. Do we have the revised forms for me to get my signature on?
Yeah, they're here.
Okay, so we'll do that. at
I
some
can
point.
tell the committee that we submitted what we had approved last meeting, and Carla, town accountant, because we had taken her form and CPC form and merged them, and I got her approval that what we had created. She asked for the warrant articles to be attached, which is, what we will be doing. And so we're good to move forward, and we can start getting more of these out there. I'll try to bring some to the next meeting as well, so that we can start.
Great. Okay. Share report. I mean, the only thing to report was the correspondence, which we've certainly covered in great depth. Our annual report. So everyone had a chance to thumb through. Lisa had one catch. Did I put that now? Oh, so Lisa noticed that so underneath the first set of bullet items, the CPC is presently reviewing applications from the Southborough Historical Society, and that says Southborough Historical Commission.
Yeah.
That should be Southborough Trails Committee.
Should we have golf as well?
Yeah, oh, thank you, the Southborough Golf Club, I think it's the
Golf Club Committee.
Golf Club Committee.
That was the only thing. Great job, Betsy.
Thank you.
Yes, I think.
Is it the golf course committee or am I wrong about that?
The golf
I
course
think it's the
committee?
golf course committee, yeah.
Okay,
Should be.
At the Golf Course Club Committee.
Or the
Golf
golf
Club
committee.
Golf
Golf
Club
course
Committee.
committee.
Golf course committee.
it's the Golf Course Committee for the Golf Club.
There you go.
I think they put
The
different name
application,
on
I
their
think, had
application.
the
They may not
committee on
know
it.
Oh, okay.
their name.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, thank you, Betsy. I was also just gonna add, I appreciated you acknowledging members who had served in the past year. I think Annie Pfaff was also in this past year.
I think
Before
she
grants.
stepped,
Yes,
Or is it
I
24?
came on in March. I'm not sure when she stepped down.
Okay, all right, I'll add her.
Yeah, it would have been very.
I can look
early
into
in the
that.
year.
She's not in for a month. or two.
Yeah.
what role,
Oh, was it 20?
when did you,
This was for 20.
she was historical, correct?
Yeah,
How long have you been here?
I think March of last year. And 23,
So she covered January, February, she wasn't.
but I'm not sure if we had a vacancy. I just don't remember, I'm sorry.
You're right. I think
Yeah.
you're right. She had a baby and yeah.
So I don't know when she
You know
left. I think I joined in
I think
March.
that she was here this week.
You can,
I can look it
Just
up.
add it.
we can look it up in the minutes.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's a good
And-
point.
If she was a member, you could also look at last year's annual report, because we didn't say goodbye. We should say goodbye this year.
yeah,
You should. Okay,
And then just at the top of the second page there, my last name is misspelled.
what?
I didn't hear that.
The top of the second page.
Uh-huh.
So my last name, Marya.
Oh, sorry.
No
Oh,
problem.
dear.
Sorry, we have us review, right?
Oh,
There you go.
and I pronounced your name wrong on each vote this evening. I'm sorry.
What's the?
Yeah.
Maria,
Mark.
And I was saying Myra. My apologies.
it's close enough. That's right.
I
Uh,
usually get brachio from my last. And Ben said it's one of the first few people that have said it right, so.
What is it?
People usually say brachio, you see my name.
Oh.
Ben had it correct. I think I've got it correct. You have. You have.
All right, so unless anybody has anything else, I think we've gotten through it this evening. Would somebody like to,
Oh, actually,
oh, yeah, please.
Kevin Miller just texted me saying Annie resigns from CPC on March 31st.
Okay, so
Oh,
let's,
yeah,
yes, we're gonna say
absolutely.
goodbye, but thank you very much. Kevin.
Thank you.
For the audience.
Okay, and I forgot to thankfully check in yet again, but there have been no hands raised.
Well, Michael did have his hand raised for a while and then would go down, and would come up and would go down, but when you were talking, and so I
Okay,
don't know if he wants to say anything, he does not.
Yeah,
appear-
that's a good point. Like, I think that's a
Uh,
great point, just to make sure that
can
anyone on
certainly
the line.
revisit an agenda item, if he wishes to speak, I don't.
His hand is not up right now.
Okay,
No one's hand is up.
okay,
Make a motion to
The only
adjourn.
other person I noticed on was Ellen, and I just want to know if Ellen wants to say
Now
anything.
his hand is up.
Okay.
His
Oh,
hand
his
is up.
hand is up, okay, then, no, he joined us this evening, and,
Shall I allow
yeah,
him to
please,
talk?
please promote him up.
He should be.
Hi. Can you hear
Good
me?
evening. We can,
Yes, well, I have tried to join this meeting probably 42 times over the last 2 hours. So I was not able to address many of the issues that you brought up. Needless to say, I think the comments are unfair and highly biased. But now, of course, at the very end of this, it's really too late. When I was there trying repeatedly to talk to you, and in fact, Ben, as you know, I suggested that I and Kevin Miller and John Del Briscoli address you on the 24th to go point by point to these points that you raised, rather than having you run down a list of statements that you made without anyone there to respond to them. Highly unfair, highly prejudicial, and highly infactual. So, excuse me. But, you know, what's done is done. So, but I think the record will reflect that I was there trying to respond to these points during the entire meeting, and no one bothered to note that I was there.
well, we certainly want to give you the opportunity to speak now, Michael.
No, Ben, it's way too late. You know, when you were rolling down this list of points by point, including like questioning my education.
Sorry, I'm gonna interrupt. I'm gonna interrupt for 1 second. As a member of this committee, can we just take a step back and reframe what we're talking about?
Yeah, Kristen, I think we can reframe it as public comment. which
Just
you
in case,
interrupted.
no, I understand that. Just for people that might join late or might listen late, can we just like take a step back and just set the topic?
Yes, I was the proponent of the Southborough Historical Society proposal that you were reviewing, and we were not given any time or ability to comment on any of the statements you made.
Okay, so, Michael, I'm gonna speak now for just a moment. We are responding to correspondence that you had sent with.
Yes,
So Michael, excuse me, I'm gonna just talk for a moment here. Now, that was a discussion amongst the committee members, and you know, I wouldn't have invited you to join that discussion until we had gotten through it. I apologize for not, I'm still getting used to this hybrid format. Not having my computer screen in front of me showing the attendees has thrown me for a loop here. What I should have done was then asked if there were any hands up at the conclusion of the committee's discussion of your correspondence, and I erred in doing that, and I apologize.
Excuse me.
I do want to,
I'm
excuse,
sorry, he had left the meeting by the time we had finished that section, he was off the meeting.
Well, yes,
Okay.
yes, hello, yes.
thank
There
you,
were
Betsy.
no hands up at
But-
the end of that.
But
conversation.
Michael, you are,
And to
you
be
are.
perfectly
simply-
fair, I had left
You're-
the meeting because I'd raised my hands dozens of times and no one was responding, not even to acknowledge. I mean, again,
Okay, so in fairness, I'm just gonna point out that in our board meetings, they don't take public comment during the meeting. They take
yeah,
public
yes and
comment.
no, Kristen, but on the other hand.
No, I'm just saying,
Jim-
I don't actually agree with it. I think it stinks. But I'm just saying this board did nothing, or this committee
Yeah,
did
but-
nothing that's not outside
well,
the
yeah,
norm of regular meeting.
no, not really, because Jim Hegarty was there in person and you engaged him back and forth with questions and response during your discussion.
That
We
is
were
true.
we were never given that opportunity.
Michael.
I
you-
will say he was in person, so that was a little bit different, but
Well,
okay.
yeah, well, but you know what? I said that we were not
Oh.
able to attend this evening and that we had asked to,
No, please don't mute them. I'm gonna ask people to let me speak for just a moment. Michael, the society has been given the opportunity to, has been kept on the agenda every single meeting since November, and has been given ample opportunity to speak on all these issues. Now, the agenda item this evening, what we covered was the correspondence that we received from you. And it was entirely appropriate for the committee to discuss this amongst the committee. And then, as I said, I should have solicited input from the public, which in this case would have been you, at the conclusion of our committee discussion. I apologize for not doing that. I apologize again. I understand, Betty, that you had left, I'm not done yet, that you had left in frustration. You're now being given the opportunity to say your piece here. But again, the fact that we are down to the absolute wire here, the fact that we have run out of time,
Ben,
we're here
again,
because of lack of action by society in responding to our reasonable
I'm
requests.
sorry, I must object to this because we submitted this application to you in August, which
No,
was
that's-
lost. Yes,
You did not.
no,
That was-
we
called it
did.
A placeholder application, and we're unable to act on an incomplete application. We finally got a substantially complete application at the end of October. At our first meeting in November, we held a hearing about the actual complete application, but we do not act on an incomplete placeholder application, not for any applicant.
Well, part of the problem was that until yesterday or the day before, the communications from the Southborough Historical Society and the town of Southborough were blocked by the town server, which I did notify all of you about back in October, asking that something be done with this. So finally, a couple of days ago, I had to go to the Board of Selectmen and ask them to actually override whatever problems there were, because as you know, Ben, you were not getting any communications from us.
Right,
all.
so I gave
I'm sorry,
my personal-
pause,
my personal
pause,
email.
pause.
Excuse me,
Sorry,
Kristen,
I'm sorry,
I'm sorry,
pause
Kristen.
for all of our, for all of our clarifications. Are you suggesting that any communications, and this is a question to historical, are you suggesting that any communications from the town haven't been received since a certain date and time?
Yes, I'm not suggesting. I know that for a
What
fact.
is the date and time?
Since going back almost to August, when Freddie
So since
Gillespie.
August, you have received no, I just want to be crystal
No,
clear.
Kristen,
Important.
I'm sorry, you're
No,
complicating what I'm saying.
no, don't interrupt me, please.
Well, don't interrupt
Since-
me.
This is a very important point. Are you saying since August, the Historical
Society.
Society has not received any communications from the town or town commissions or committees?
No, what I'm
Nothing.
saying, no.
Zero.
No, stop. What I'm saying is that the town has not received any communications from the Historical Society except via private email addresses. And
Well,
this was
I don't-
addressed
I
just
I
recently.
dispute that, but
Well,
Okay.
you can dispute it all you want, but you can talk to the Board of Selectmen and Mark Purple and find out that this was just resolved 2 or 3 days ago.
Okay, now, Michael and Kristen, I'm gonna speak on this now. Michael, you and I corresponded about this very problem back in October. I went through my emails and back on the 13th, I forget the gentleman's name now, Jason Montijo, at the IT department. I contacted him. I told him the exact problem that was going on, and I asked him to look into it and resolve it. I got a reply from him that he would look into it. I understand you made a request of Freddie also. She also contacted the town's IT department. In the interim, to make sure that communication was preserved, I gave you my private email address, which you CC'd in all of your correspondence since then. So this
Which
is.
I
this is-
appreciate, Ben.
I'm not
And
done
I
yet.
do-
This is something of a straw man argument because the communication was taking place, albeit not through my town email address, but documents certainly were being sent back and forth. And that's not.
Well, and
not the
nor
reason
to
for-
any other town email address, including the Board of Selectmen, including Kevin Miller on the Historical Commission, including anyone, frankly, because for whatever reason, we were blocked on this. So
Okay, but
I don't think this is a major issue, frankly. I don't
I
think this
actually
is.
think that is a major issue that you're bringing forward, and we're not going to solve it tonight. But coming from an IT background and one that specifically I've been dealing with interaction management for the last several years, can we just put that aside and look into it? Because I have a high, I just question that.
Well,
very
I'm
highly.
happy to
So
forward.
let's just put it to the side. 'Cause
Yeah,
we're not
well,
gonna solve it tonight, but like
Yeah,
that,
I'm happy
find
to
a lot of
forward to
problems
you
with
the
that.
emails from Jason Matillo that's saying that this problem was resolved 2 days ago. So, again, and also it's very late at night. I think we've all had enough for this evening. But I will say that I thought that we did not have a chance to respond to any of these statements that you've made.
This is the opportunity. This is the opportunity.
No,
right
it's
now.
not the opportunity now. I mean, seriously.
Why
Two and
is
a
it
half
not
hours.
now? Why is it not now? When is it?
Well, when is it? When we have a chance to go look at this step by step and object or look at the line items that you brought up saying that they were not covered or this is not something we can do. I mean, when do we actually have a point by point discussion? When, my vice president and our clerk appeared before you, they were barely allowed to talk back in
Oh,
December.
that's not true at all. That is absolutely categorically false, Michael. The fact.
Well,
the problem that
look
they
at the
had was
look
they were-
at the
they didn't
meeting.
They had.
Look at the
virtually
meeting
no
record.
Information about the project, but what we did tell them was information that we needed. And they indicated that they would go back and try to find it and provide it to us. We simply never got it. Now, we were this evening going through some correspondence that I think everyone on the committee found pretty troubling. This was an internal discussion amongst the committee members, and I wouldn't have entertained any input from any member of the public until we were done talking about it. Now, this is your opportunity to talk about it. But the other point that's really crucial to make here is we are absolutely down to the wire. It sounded like many members of the committee frankly feel that there isn't enough time left to even consider the application. I made an effort, to leave the window open so that it is still possible to provide us the information that we need, that we discussed in depth tonight, why we actually need it. We gave legal justification for it, citing DOR documents and as well as the act itself. If you can provide us this information, the window, it's still open. We've never done this for another applicant. We're bending over backwards to try to get, some portion of this funded. But you've simply flatly refused to give us this.
Ben, I have not
information that
flatly
we ask of
refused.
all applicants.
Agreed.
Well, Kristen, again, thank you. This has not been the standard applied to all applicants. And that was one of the things that we brought up in our objection. So, again, what I had proposed was a meeting with everyone together in a room to go over these things bit by bit, where we would be able to respond in a logical fashion and actually say, okay, well, maybe we were wrong. This can't be funded. Okay, maybe you're right. This is a bad idea. Maybe we're right. This is something that can be done. But, there's never been that back and forth. We've never
know.
been allowed.
Because Michael, there isn't time for that now because of the delay in getting this information. We are
But
absolutely.
Ben, we
wired.
applied in
Don't-
August. We applied in August,
You
Ben.
raised these issues-
Ben,
you
may I,
raised these
may-
issues-
Ben, may I reply?
you raised-
Respect,
Excuse me,
Ben.
Kristen, excuse me. Michael, you raised these issues 2 days ago in a letter. Now, we simply don't have time to address them, but we've been very clear what information we need.
All right, Ben, I'll tell you
to
what, let's
properly
make,
evaluate your application. And if you are able to provide that to us, and it's gonna have to be incredibly quickly, I think there is still just barely time
all
for
right,
us
Ben,
to actually review a completed application.
let's make this simple. I'm going to withdraw this application for now. I understand there's going to be a special town meeting in the fall. We will resubmit it for the special town meeting, which will hopefully give us time with established email communications and understanding and transparency between all parties here concerned, that we can maybe move forward on this if you guys think that is something you can do, and we are supportive. So consider this our formal withdrawal for now, but we will be back with the same thing for special town meeting in the fall. Does that sound like something you can entertain?
First, thank you for the proposal. I just want to talk with the committee very quickly about this. I don't recall us, I'm not saying that it's impossible by any stretch. I don't recall us submitting CPA articles to special town meeting before, but I don't see any prohibition of that.
Can I?
No, there's not.
the-
Ben,
the-
may I say something very briefly, and
open
I'm
it
not
up.
gonna repeat what you said, I obviously agree, is that I would just ask that you look back at the last meeting, because this meeting, we didn't talk in depth about the response we got about the application. We got a very thorough response from the board about the application, and we discussed it at length in our last meeting. And I don't feel like, quite frankly, from your response tonight, that you may have watched that. So I would just ask, and I think it would be constructive if you would, if the historical commission would look at that,
Society.
review the society. Thank you. I don't know why, commissioners committees, whatever. If you would please go back and watch that meeting and then formulate your questions, and then let's come together and have a discussion, because there was solid points raised that we can do nothing about. It's just the law. Why your application did not fit so many criteria. So I
Well,
think the way to end this is just simply that. Can you just
Well,
please go
again-
back and watch that? And can we please have a
Yes,
special meeting
I
and
think
we
we can have
address
a
the
discussion.
points?
But, as you well know, there are different tranches for this. I mean, part of it could have been potentially funded through recreation. There are other,
So
there
let's
are,
get together and talk about it.
well,
Watch that
let's
last
get together and
meeting.
talk about it. So,
We're
yeah,
we're trying to do that. So one thing, Freddie, you had something you wanted to say.
The historical position of the committee is that they do not take new applications to open up for special town meeting or fall town meeting, but that if you had a pre-existing application, you could consider it again, so that you don't want it to be a free-for-all that anyone that
Yeah.
comes to you at any time with an application. But where this one is already on the table, it would be appropriate within that. And there's nothing written pro or against, I'm just
Just
talking about
historic practice.
historical
Yep.
practice. There would be nothing to prevent you. What Michael had offered was to withdraw now and come back for fall town meeting or whatever the special town meeting is. That is something you certainly would be within historical practice of this committee.
Does anyone on the committee feel any reservation about doing this. I think it's it's a welcome, I think, reasonable proposal from my perspective. And if folks are comfortable with it, I want to say yes.
Yes, meeting to considering it in the future.
To consider,
Yeah.
Michael has talked about withdrawing the application. I would suggest instead, in effect, continuing the application. I don't think it's necessary to, formally withdraw. It's a pending application that time has run out for action for this town meeting. But historically, in situations like this, the committee has continued the discussion in order to get it on to, if possible, a special town meeting.
Can I just offer a suggestion? If we're gonna consider doing this, Michael, before we sit down and hash this out and discuss it, it would be helpful to this committee to have the information that we've been requesting, when we have that sit down.
I'd have to review again what information you are requesting, because there has been so many requests back and forth that frankly, we've lost track. But I welcome your consideration of this, because I would like to remind every member of this commission that we are attempting to build a history museum and art center for the town of Southborough, not a prison. And that this is something that we should all try to get behind. I realize there are legal strictures. I realize this has been difficult, but this is something for the benefit of the town of Southborough that will benefit every single person that lives in our community. So I look forward to working with you to try to achieve that goal.
Okay, and Michael, I want to thank you for making this. It's a very reasonable proposal. I want to thank you for making it. And the committee has indicated that everyone is comfortable going forward on this basis. Now, in terms of the information we requested, I attempted to, I think I did a pretty good job of summarizing it in an email. Geez, it was just a couple of weeks ago. But if you're looking for, so you don't have to paw through, all the records, I think it was summarized.
Yeah, Ben, if you could resend me the stuff, again, the communications have been so scrambled that if you could just resend me the information you're looking for, I will review it with the board and get back to you right away.
I can do that.
Thank you.
Not before town meeting.
Yeah, yep.
Not right away.
Okay.
And Ben, I know we have to be conscious of open meeting regulations. So whatever you send, could you also send to us? I know we can't comment, we have to be conscious of that, but whatever you send, could you send back to our committee as well?
Absolutely. I think everybody has received it, and I will resend it, and I'll put the whole committee on the CC list. But again, we have to be very careful in situations like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, and from our understanding, all communications go through the chair. So that is who we will be talking to.
Okay. All right.
All right. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is there minutes?
Minutes.
We're going to table the minutes until the
It
next.
wasn't on the agenda.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you were right.
Yeah, we didn't expect them to have them done. Betsy, excuse me. A terrible time tonight. Just put in a Herculean effort and got them done in time. So we have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? We have a second. All right, roll call vote. Kristen Laval.
Yes.
Grant Barrington.
Enthusiastic, yes.
Brett Peters. Ellen Murray.
Yes.
Lisa Bracci.
Yes.
And Ben Smith is a yes.
Good night.
Good
Good night, Kristen. Feel better.
Thank you so much, guys. Bye.
Thank you.